Alright, we always end up loving the side characters. While they may technically be part of the main cast of movies and TV shows, they are not the main characters that we are all supposed to follow. And yet, somehow, we always end up liking them more than the person we are supposed to pick the most. And here are just some of the classics that I need to bring up. When it comes to the best Pixar movies, The Incredibles tops the list, but you want to know who's even better than the titular family? Their best friend, Frozone, another superhero with ice powers. Granted, he only has a little bit of screen time in comparison to most, but it's thanks to his hilarious nature, and Samuel L. Jackson's excellent voice acting that makes him a fan favorite. I think there are a lot of characters in the Barry cast that you could like way more than Barry himself, but the best example is NoHo Hank. I wrote a whole article about why NoHo Hank became one of my favorite TV characters ever since I watched Barry, and I still think he's utterly hilarious. The Bridesmaids cast is filled to the brim with comedic talent, but let's be honest, when we think of Bridesmaids, we think of Melissa McCarthy, and when we think of her, we think of Megan, the character that made her famous. She's hilarious, and because of her role, she earned an Academy Award nomination. The Breaking Bad cast is filled to the brim with characters that are morally gray in every sense of the word, but Mike is one of those that you can't help but love way more than Walter. He's calm under pressure, has this stoic thing going on about him, and has appeared in both the mainline series and Better Call Saul. Do I even need to say it? Zuko is the most loved character in Avatar, The Last Airbender. Zuko's character arc is one of the best on television, and I have always been a Zuko lover because of it. Heck, I'll rewatch the show specifically for him, not really for Aang anymore. Amy, otherwise known as Fat Amy, felt like she was going to be a punching bag in the first Pitch Perfect film, but she ended up becoming one of the best parts. Rebel Wilson's iconic performance, the hilarious singer showcased someone who was unashamedly herself and spoke her mind, and we loved her for that. There are so many side characters where, at first, they look like they are the epitome of jerk or could probably beat you up. Rosa is definitely the latter, but she secretly has the biggest heart of gold, and out of everyone on the Brooklyn Nine-Nine cast, she's the person I connected to the most on the show. Reese is overrated, and I stand by that even now because I personally can't stand Danny or Sandy. But you know who I can? Rizzo. She has depth, emotion, and the voice to match. Sure, the actress does not look like she belongs in high school, but who really does in this film? Jurassic Park is a quintessential 90s film, but I'm going to be honest and say most of the characters in there, to me, are forgettable. You watch the movie for the fantastic dinosaurs and epic action, but you want to know who isn't? Ian Malcolm, played by Jeff Goldblum. But that's not fair, because Jeff Goldblum makes every side character better than the main one. Arguably one of Robin Williams' best movies, Aladdin is a great Disney princess flick, but every time I think of it, I think of the genie. He's hyper, hilarious, and a great friend to Aladdin, even when Aladdin treats him selfishly at one point. You can't get enough of him. Obviously, I had to put Daryl Dixon on here. I'm pretty sure that he became the entire show once Rick left the series. He has his spin-off now called The Walking Dead, Daryl Dixon. There was a whole campaign that said, if Daryl dies, we riot. Heck, the character wasn't even part of the main cast in season 1 until Norman Reedus turned him into the lovable redneck that we all know him as today. There are certain iconic TV shows that you know about just from a particular character. Urkel is the definition of that with Family Matters. Sure, I loved the hilarious sitcom for years, but the first thing that comes to my mind whenever it pops up is Urkel's famous catchphrase, "Did I do that?" The Devil Wears Prada cast is filled to the absolute brim with stars, but when you watch it, it's really Emily Blunt's character, Emily, that steals the show in her absolute love of fashion and all things Miranda Priestly. It's actually amazing to think back on this film because this is the movie that made Emily Blunt into a household name because of how amazing she was in this role. I will always love Titus in Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt. There was just something about this fabulous man that I could not get enough of, and I wanted so much more from him. I will never forgive Netflix for canceling this show. Titus Burgess, the actor behind the character, portrayed him so well, and I just need to see more. The Game of Thrones cast is ridiculously huge. So it's almost impossible to pick side characters that outshone the core six: Daenerys, Jon, Sansa, Tyrion, Jaime, and Cersei, because those were the ones we cared about. But in terms of side characters that surrounded their stories, there's no one better than Brienne of Tarth. She was strong, fought for what she believed in, and arguably had one of the best endings out of everyone on this show. I am an avid lover of Kill Bill because I adore watching women kick butt. If we're being honest, I always rewatch the fight between Black Mamba and Oren Ishii. She is just so awesome, and her fighting style gives me chills every single time. The Community cast is excellent, but let's be honest here, Jeff, as a main character, is pretty boring, but it's all the side characters around him that make him great, and Troy and Abed are the definition of that. Their friendship is iconic, but it wasn't the same when Donald Glover left the series. There are plenty of side characters in The Office that could make this list, but I think the biggest one is Dwight Schrute. The weird office worker had a certain charm about him that everyone loved, and I think it's really in part to Rainn Wilson's great performance of him. There are so many side characters in anime in general that people love more than the main character, but my top pick has to go to Levi Ackerman in Attack on Titan. If you know, you know. But if you don't, he's literally coined humanity's strongest soldier and proves it several times throughout the course of the series, and yet, behind his stoic nature, he is a good, if not morally gray, man. And fans eat that stuff up, including myself. As someone who was a devout fan of the 100 for many years, I don't think any other side character came along that changed the game quite like Lexa did. Not only was she badass, but she ended up becoming a love interest for the main character, which spawned an entire shipping war, which was a time to be alive. She was only in this show for a few seasons, but she made her impact. He is the definition of a side character turned fan favorite. He was a side character until fans ended up loving him so much that the show turned him into a main character for Happy Days. Granted, they ended up doing too much, and it ruined his character, hence the phrase, jumping the shark, was born, but still. It's a great example. Girl, Interrupted is a very serious movie that is tough to watch, but there's no denying the excellent performances. Winona Ryder is terrific as the main character, but let's be truthful here. Angelina Jolie as Lisa stole the show and then some. There's no beating her. While Frodo is the main character in The Lord of the Rings, everyone talks about Sam. He's a great friend to Frodo, but he's also kind, loyal, and utterly wholesome in comparison to everything else in the movies. There are so many side characters in Game of Thrones, but the one I have to point out that I love so much is Bronn. I feel like we always forget he's there, but when he's on screen, he just steals every scene he's in. He's hilarious, doesn't hold back what he wants to say, and is a great fighter. You can't help but love him. Okay, so maybe this is a slight stretch, but I think when Black Widow came out, so many people had already moved past Natasha dying in Avengers Endgame that it was hard to connect with her in this new film. But you want to know who people are really connected with? Yelena, Natasha's adoptive sister, ended up becoming a tremendous character, and people wish to be back in the MCU. It catapulted Florence Pugh's career. The new girl cast has so many great characters, but I'm going to be honest and say that Schmidt is undoubtedly my favorite. Jess is great and all, but I don't find myself laughing uncontrollably when she's on screen. I'm rooting for my man Schmidt and how he somehow comes up with the most hilarious moments that make me snicker. Clueless is a great 90s film, but Cher is one of those characters that you either love or hate because of how she acts. However, the one person I think we can all agree with is fantastic, Dionne, played by the impeccable Stacey Dash. She's a fashionista who sticks by Cher's side, and you have to respect that. Alright, so I do love Din Djarin, and I will legit support anything that man does, but it wasn't his face plastered everywhere after the first season of The Mandalorian, it was Grogu, who was first known as Baby Yoda. And, I mean, he is pretty cute, so I can't really complain. Atlanta is a series that towed the line between drama and comedy during its 4-season run, but one of the best characters that fit in with both of those was Darius. Played by Lakeith Stanfield, Darius is calm, if not a little weird, but does it so well and with a smooth nature.